Hi, folks. I'm Father Joe Grimaldi. You can call me Joe, and I'd like to welcome you to my podcast. But now, here's our host and friend, Ken Calvert.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ken Calvert alongside Father Joe Grimaldi, and we'd like to welcome you to the Father Joe Grimaldi Podcast. The Father Joe Podcast, proudly supported by our good friends at Houghton McInerney Star Lincoln 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield, the home of the Father Joe Grimaldi Star Treatment, serving southeastern Lower Michigan customers for 50 years. That's 3 generations of McInerney's, following founder Houghton McInerney's mission to provide the customer with the best service possible, and that's why so many of Star's customers are on their second, third, and fourth Star Lincoln luxury vehicle like me. I'm on Star Lincoln MKC number 4. Summer savings spectacular going on right now. And the only thing hotter than these temperatures are the savings. Check out the summer savings on the stunning 2020 Lincoln Aviator, the all-new Lincoln Nautilus, the Lincoln MKC, and the must-have Lincoln Navigator. Houghton McInerney Star Lincoln 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield. They treasure your time and your business. Stop on by and say hi. Houghton McInerney Star Lincoln 12 Mile Road and Telegraph in Southfield, home of the Star Treatment. How are you, my good friend?
I'm doing well, thank you. And you?
Oh, I couldn't be any better. If I were any better,
You'd be twins.
I'd be twins, that's right. Maybe even triplets. I told you about my favorite expression, another day, another A. I use that a lot.
Do you?
Yeah, and a lot of people smile when I say that. If you walk in and somebody says, "Hi, how are you?" You go, "Oh boy, another day, another A."
I'll have to remember that. That's
because
great.
You know what it does? It makes people smile. You go, "I like that expression." You say, "Well, you go ahead and use it 3 times, and you have to give me credit. And then after that, you own it." So, I've been reading different articles recently, a couple of topics that we'll discuss here. And I wanted to go back and ask you a couple of questions about the various titles within the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Are you ready to begin?
I'm ready.
There are Monsignors practicing right now as Monsignors, but they are not being named Monsignors in 2019.
Oh, sure. There are about 3 in Detroit now.
But I'm saying that a priest is no longer getting the title.
Yes.
Oh, I thought you said that they
3
were
have just been appointed.
as Monsignors.
Right.
I thought you told me that was no longer happening.
It's not.
Okay, well now
Yes and no.
Okay.
Okay, let me
I'm
explain.
glad I brought this question up because all right, good. So let's start there with Monsignors.
Yeah, Monsignors has no power attribute to it. Okay, it's just an honorary title, giving a priest who has done some good work along the way, and giving him some sort of a boost in his own self-image, and the image of others as well as they see him. In any case, since at times, because it doesn't have power, like if you're a Monsignor, it doesn't give you any more power than you would as a priest.
Right.
So the title sounds so fancy, many people in the congregation says, "Oh, my Lord, he's the next bishop." Well, it has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
However, the Holy Father has said, yes, you may appoint Monsignors, but they have to be at least 70 or older. And so that it doesn't happen while they're still in ministry, even though some of them are still in ministry after 70. But as they say, he wanted it to be separate from the ministry. The reason being that very often some priests feel slighted. Why is he a Monsignor and I'm not?
Yeah.
This type of thing.
Yeah.
Since it's really just a title of honor. Now, it's interesting that whenever a Monsignor is appointed, there are other titles given to lay people that are similar to Monsignor. And they're given because these lay folks have been very active in the diocese and are doing good works for the diocese, so they honor them. And most recently, there are 2 that have been named or have been given special papal honors. That's what we call them, papal honors. That's what Monsignor is, a papal honor. Monsignor, of course, comes from the French word Monsignor, which means my lord.
Oh.
So it's a stuffy title, my lord. We don't use that.
My lord.
Well, in Canada they do. When they address the bishop, it's my lord.
Huh.
So
I like that, though.
yeah, but we don't use that. So it's
Ugly Americans.
it's so refined. So
We don't have time for that stuff. Let's just get them in here, okay?
that's right. So to answer your question,
Yeah.
yes, they are naming monsignors. Not a lot. On occasion, like, I don't know if you know who Father Mackinhill is, but
Yeah.
he's the newest Monsignor for our diocese. And so he's now, as of October, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, even now, you could call him Monsignor if you want, but he'll be officially vested as a Monsignor in October, I think it is, of this coming year.
So there's a ceremony that goes along with it as well.
Yes, for vesting. And
Right.
so
Well, the vesting includes the red buttons, right?
That's what I mean, yeah.
Not the character, you remember Red Buttons, don't you?
Oh, I love them, yeah.
He's a funny man, yeah. So I'm sorry if I offended anyone with my sideways humor on that one.
No.
All right, so I'm sorry. I've got to pay attention to
Don't be sorry. We were right.
Well, I said it.
You were right.
I said it with my Canadian accent as well. I'm sorry. You could actually wear all red if you wanted to.
There were times.
Yeah, like Christmas.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay. All right, so we still do have the Monsignor. I did not know you had to be over 70 years of age to be a Monsignor.
Right.
So you're saying, as they said in the movie Dumb and Dumber, there's still a chance, right?
For me?
Yeah.
God, no.
So you're saying there's a chance.
Well, if they do it after 80, yes. But I mean,
Well, I think
I'm 79. I'll be 79, so.
Well, I know that, but you'd be perfect as a Monsignor.
Oh, you think so, but the church doesn't right now, so.
How do we,
okay.
all right, is there a campaign to be a man?
No!
I said a man-senior. Well, maybe I could be a man-senior.
A Monsignor.
No, that's what they should do. That's exactly what they should do with the lay people.
They do.
Well, they should call him a man-senior.
They call them
guy.
papal honors. He's getting papal honors.
Yeah, but there's no title with that.
Maybe they call him sir or something.
People like titles. You know that.
Oh, yes.
Okay, now getting on with this. Okay, so has it always been 70 to be a Monsignor?
No.
Why is it 70 now?
Because Francis, our Pope, said.
Oh.
You know, Francis has a much more pastoral attitude towards priests. Do you remember the famous saying that he came out with, and I love it? Unless you really smell like the sheep, you're not a true shepherd.
I love that.
And so that's one of my favorite lines.
Sure.
Huh? In order to be a true shepherd, you have to smell like the sheep. You have to be with them. You have to interact with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so he felt that, again, he wanted to make sure that there would be no divisive spirit among the priests. So you're not going to have Father so-and-so as a Monsignor, and then you have the guy next door at another church who does twice the amount of work, and he doesn't get it because it's up to the bishop. And so, see, what happens is the bishop is the one who designates. It goes through Rome and then comes back.
Okay.
And that's why you say it's papal honors. But it's the papal honors that are given to individuals and priests when they're designated by the local bishop.
I don't want to stay stuck on the Monsignor.
Right.
And I think I've got it all. But is there an active campaign on behalf of the person that may become a Monsignor to sort of get the ball rolling?
If there is, I don't know it. Okay. So
would it be a parish, a gathering of people in the parish that may suggest to the Archbishop?
Yeah, although I don't know it. It could happen. Why not? When people are human.
So if a group of people from St. Hugo of the Hills or
Right.
St. Regis, Queen of Martyrs, St. Owen's, Holy Name, any one of the Catholic churches, their retired priest, their pastor, they could as a group put together some sort of a letter to petition the Archbishop of Detroit to possibly get the papal papers for that person to become a Monsignor.
I mean, I'm sure. But I have no idea if that's happening, if it ever happened. I mean, you're bringing out a human quality, which is a possibility.
All right.
But it really comes from the Archbishop.
All right. I still think that there must be some campaigning involved at some some point. Well, I'm going to look into it and get back to you on that, okay? Now, I wanted to ask you about this because you've mentioned the word bishop a couple of times.
Okay.
How does one eventually become bishop?
The order of bishops, okay.
Yeah.
So basically, we live in a diocese or an archdiocese, either way. And in the United States, we have what's called a ProAnuncio. Maybe as Americans we would say he's the papal ambassador to the United States. If you go to D.C., there's Embassy Row, and along Embassy Row, one of those nice homes is the home of the ambassador or the ProAnuncio. Mm-hmm. The present ProAnuncio is a guy named Pierre, his last name. He's a Frenchman, and he is the ProAnuncio for the United States. The reason I mention him, all the bishops in the United States eventually will turn in a list of names that he thinks, or each bishop thinks, should become a bishop. So-and-so has the qualities of being a bishop. Well, they send those names to the nuncio, the ProAnuncio, who reviews those names, but also does some vetting, preliminary vetting on the individuals that have been sent to him, the names of the individuals that have been sent to him. And then eventually, when everything is well done and so on and so forth, it arrives at the time when the personal vetting takes place. And so the individual that is being talked about then has to go to D.C. and interview with the ProAnuncio. All of that being said, the ProAnuncio himself then has to submit 3 names to Rome for a particular archdiocese, or diocese. Suppose the archdiocese needs a bishop. The archbishop will say, we need another bishop.
Why? Why would he need another bishop?
Population.
Oh.
And so what would happen is the nuncio has the names, or the ProAnuncio has the names, 3 names from that diocese. And he sends those 3 names to Rome. Rome does its own vetting, and they choose one of the 3 names. So that person then is a bishop designate. Mm-hmm. He is going to become an auxiliary bishop, let's say, for Detroit. And so that's the way it operates. So next thing you know, he's named, and the archdiocese has another bishop.
Not unlike my confusion with Monsignor, there has to be a period or something that gets that discussion started about taking Father Joe Grimaldi and elevating him to the status of bishop.
Yeah, and it started by the archbishop.
It started by the archbishop. Yes. In other words, you have a relationship prior.
Not necessarily. I mean, the archbishop has a relationship with all of the priests.
Right.
He knows who's there, who isn't. Uh-huh. He knows who's doing what, and so on. And so if there is a need, he may say, well, so-and-so, John Smith, Roberts, or whatever the name is, he'll send those names to the ProAnuncio, who then has to review them and so on. In choosing a bishop, there are 2 levels, of course. Sometimes you need the head of a diocese,
right,
not just an auxiliary bishop. Mm-hmm. Well, that too is handled by the nuncio, the ProAnuncio. He gets the names, and they look them over, and they see what talents they have. And they try to match the talents to the particular diocese or archdiocese. When you look at the Archdiocese of Detroit, Vigneron, the Archbishop of Detroit, Archbishop Vigneron, is noted for being a very good financial individual. And so they needed someone who was good at that.
Sure.
And so that was one of his main qualifications. If you remember, he came from Oakland, California, but originally from Detroit. So from Detroit, he went to Oakland, and then as Bishop of Oakland, then he became Bishop of Detroit, Archbishop of Detroit. But his claim to fame, if you want, was that he was very good in keeping the books, and he was able to keep everything on the straight and narrow, and whatever terminology you want to use. But he's known to be a very good...
He balanced his budgets.
Yes, very well. And so he knows how to do that. But I'm sure his spiritual qualities are also taken into consideration. His relationship to other priests, that's taken into consideration. It's a very complex type of background that they check whoever it is that's going to be suggested as bishop. So they try to take care of everything. And then, as I say, the names are picked by the ProAnuncio, who eventually sends 3 names to Rome, and there's a whole, what we call a congregation for bishops. They're the ones that look at those names. They do vetting on their own, and they'll pick one of the 3 names that's been set.
All right, is a ProAnuncio a bishop?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is he Italian?
It could be anything.
Oh, okay.
No.
All right, so I thought...
No, Pierre is French.
I thought Rome sent...
When I speak about Rome, I'm speaking about the Holy Father.
I realize that, but I
Yeah.
was talking about the ProAnuncio.
Yeah,
He's assigned to
right.
Washington, D.C.
Correct.
by Francis.
Right.
Okay.
But it can be anywhere. It could be from India. It could be from Australia. It could be anywhere. We happen to have a Frenchman at this time. He's been the ProAnuncio for the last 3 years, maybe.
Okay. Is that something that will term out? He'll
Yes.
term out of that. Okay. And again, is there an age limit set for a bishop versus a Monsignor? If a Monsignor has to be 70, I would think that you would want a younger person to be, I would think maybe 60 for a bishop. I don't know.
What happens is this. Usually, they'll try to pick younger people. And usually, they're going to be strong in their studies, strong in their spirituality, strong in communicating with the other priests. And so they'll pick those people.
And
now,
strong in health.
Yeah, and strong in health, too. You have these people, then, who are made bishops. A bishop has to resign when he's 75.
I did not know that.
That doesn't mean the resignation will be accepted.
I see what you're saying.
Often it is, and sometimes it is not. So it's unusual when the bishop, let's say he resigns and it's not accepted immediately.
Yeah.
So they can continue. You know, he may want to be out, but the Pope feels that he's a good person for that particular area, and so he stays in 1 or more years.
All right, 2 quick questions for you.
Sure.
2 quick questions. Do people, for some reason, and should they, consider a bishop a holier person than, say, your parish priest? Do they have a tendency to feel that they're in rarer air around a bishop than they would be with their pastor? A holier man than the pastor?
I hope not.
Okay, I would hope not either, but do you think people do?
I don't know if they think of him as holier, but they certainly think of him as having a unique authority, which he does, over the others more so than a pastor. Yeah, I don't think they're holier. They could be.
Yeah.
But a priest could be a holy man as well.
I think you're as holy as the day is long, sir.
Oh, God, I'm not, but the others are.
Listen
So
to you.
anyway,
Listen
so
to
it
you.
can happen.
Yeah. Here's my last question regarding
Sure.
this terminology. Terminology is a good word because you've told me about the terms in, the terms out, and all of the terms in between. Cardinal is gone?
No.
I thought for some reason you told me, I thought it was just going to be bishop, archbishop. For example, why
No.
did I?
I know why.
Why did? Okay, go ahead and tell me why.
You know, you have to separate title and power. If you're speaking about power, you speak only on 3 levels.
Yes.
Priest, bishop, and pope.
Okay.
Okay?
That's
Just
it.
remember that. That's
Okay.
it. Nothing else.
But those
However,
titles are still appointed and they're out there.
they serve a purpose. See, for example, a cardinal is a bishop usually, and if he's not, he's made a bishop right away. A cardinal is someone whose primary job, if you want, among other things, but primary, he gets to be voting for the new pope.
Yes.
Whenever that happens.
Yeah.
So that's not gone by any means.
But that's why I was asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just that when we speak about cardinal as a title,
Yeah.
it's a title. It doesn't give him any more power than a bishop. Does that make sense?
It does.
People assume.
Yeah, well, the Conference of Bishops,
Right.
and within that body or that conference, you would find many cardinals.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, I see what you're saying. I always come up with one more quick question.
Sure.
We had Cardinal...
You and who was the detective? But go on.
Peter Falk in Colombo. I'm very sorry to bother you, sir, but you said something right there near the end as I was walking out the door that really sort of piqued my curiosity. Well, that's it, sir. I got everything I need. So you're saying, getting back to that element of a chance, you're saying that there's a chance that Archbishop Vigneron could indeed be named a cardinal.
Of course.
That could happen.
Yeah. See, now, one of the things they'll say about Detroit, we already have someone, Cardinal Maida is still around.
Yes.
So, maybe. But Detroit is not what it used to be number-wise.
Size-wise, no, it's sure not.
And so that's one of the reasons they give that's why Vigneron is not a cardinal. But Baltimore, for example, regardless of the number of people in that diocese, will always have a cardinal because that place is the mother church of the whole United States. That's where it all started.
That's the beauty of this podcast.
That's where it all started.
You don't learn something every time. You learn a lot of somethings every time.
New York is going to be, as long as its population holds up,
yeah,
and because of its strategic location,
it's going to be the epicenter no matter what.
They're going to have, right.
Yeah.
Philadelphia usually is.
Chicago
usually
Boston.
is. Boston. Now, see, the one in L.A. is interesting. He's not a cardinal yet. And yet L.A. has a very large. It may have to do with the fact that he is Opus Dei, and maybe that's a reason why he's not.
He's what?
He belongs to a group called the Opus Dei.
Oh.
But that's another topic. But anyway.
All right, well.
And then San Francisco used to always have, and I'm surprised why it doesn't, unless there's somebody there living there now. But anyway, because of its strategic location, they would have a cardinal. But they don't right now. So these things are unexplainable to me.
Well, I'm glad that I brought up the topic.
But we still have Chicago and
Boston, New York,
Boston's another one.
Philadelphia.
Now, the Archbishop of Boston is really an interesting guy because he's a Capuchin. He's the same order as
Blessed
Solanus,
Casey,
whose feast day we celebrated yesterday. So, but anyway, O'Malley is his name, and he's the Archbishop and Cardinal of Boston.
You have to be Irish if you're going to be the Cardinal of Boston, don't you?
Or Italian. I mean, it's half and half. But anyway, so there we are.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for joining us. Hope you did learn something. I learned a lot.
Well, I hope you did too.
And that's the mission of the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. We'll see you next time on the Father Joe Grimaldi podcast. I'm Ken Calvert.
And looking forward to seeing you again. Take care. This is Father Joe Grimaldi, and I look forward to seeing you next time on the Father Joe podcast.
If you'd like, you can email us. It's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. That's frjoepodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Facebook. Simply search Father Joe Grimaldi. And thanks for listening, everyone.